Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my January update for my Vermivlogs. That is worm vlogs. Vermiculture is anything to do with worms. And I have been a worm farmer for a little over 6 months now. I started at the beginning of June of 2020. It was kind of a pandemic thing. I have a neighbor who's gotten a bunch of tattoos and piercings during this pandemic. Me? I started farming worms. It's a little strange, I'll admit it, but it's become a hobby that I am in love with and I'm very fond of. I have two kinds of worms, red wigglers and African night crawlers, and I've been really busy since I last updated you about 6 weeks ago. A lot's been going on. So I'm going to be showing you little clips of the events that have been occurring with my worms over the past 6 weeks. But one thing I wanted to tell you is that at the very end of this video, I'm going to show you a clip of me kind of going through some compost that I've sifted through, and I have decided to start sifting through my compost. And what I'm trying to do is little by little. So I have purchased a big orange bucket from Home Depot, and I actually have two big orange buckets from Home Depot. One is labeled African night crawlers and then the other is labeled red wigglers, and I am collecting compost little by little. And there are two reasons for me to do this. Back in September, I realized that winter was coming and that I wasn't going to be able to do like any major harvest where I could collect the compost and dump it into my yard because it would be winter. I mean, we got like a foot of snow yesterday and it's still snowing now. So I would have to store the compost, and I didn't really want to do that. And at the time I was thinking that maybe I could make it through the whole winter without having to do a harvest. But I quickly realized that I was very foolish in thinking that and that it was not realistic at all. My African night crawlers are just way too busy, and even the red wigglers, I mean, they've gone through all that food, and if I want to put more food in, I need to harvest the compost and make room for more food. So what I've decided to do is just take it little by little. So even if I just do like a handful every couple of days, then by the time March comes around, hopefully I've delegated one of my damaged Tupperware containers for the job, but this is what I collected last night. It's not much, it's like 2 handfuls, but that way I could keep checking in on this and pull out the babies as I find them, because there are so many babies even in the harvested compost. No matter how hard I try to make sure no babies get through, cocoons and babies do slip through the cracks. So that way when I'm doing this little by little, I can keep pulling the babies out, and it's not as big of a task as if I have to do like a major harvest that takes like 8 hours of a whole day. So I'm kind of growing on the idea of doing little harvests, you know, throughout the week, maybe one during the week and one on the weekend to kind of stay on top of this. And that way by spring, I will have a nice full bin of harvested compost ready for planting and gardening my plants and my garden. The reason I am keeping the compost separate is for the babies. As I find the babies in the bin, I will know that if there's a baby in this bin, it's an African night crawler baby, and I could put it back with the African night crawlers. And same thing with the red wiggler bin. If I find a baby in that bin, I'll know it's a red wiggler and I can put it in that bin. So for now, I am keeping the compost separate so I could keep track of where the babies go when I find them. But yeah, I am harvesting compost already. I think I'm gonna cut out like a cardboard circle that kind of sits in here to keep the moisture in as much as possible as well. Because one thing you want to avoid is having your harvested compost completely dry out, because then all of the little microbiology that is making this so nutritious and good for the garden dies off, and it's just dirt. It's not nearly as effective as when it's like a live biome of a little biome of action. So I think I'm gonna cut out a cardboard lid to kind of keep the moisture in the container for this bin. But yeah, I do have a small amount of compost collected over the last week. It's not much, but it's something. And maybe over the next couple months, as I continue to do this, I will save myself a lot of trouble in spring. so that I don't have to do a big, huge harvest that takes up a whole day and leaves me sore for 3 days. So that's the plan with that. So let's cut to the clips of what I've been up to with my worms over the past 6 weeks. I know my worm hobby is not for everybody, but for those of you that do watch, thank you. I appreciate it. It's nice to know that somebody finds this interesting besides me. I'm very interested in worms. It's become quite a passion of mine over the past 6 months, but I know it's not for everybody. I know. But there are worms in this video, so if you don't want to watch worms, exit out now, because the worms are coming right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hi guys. Okay, so today's December 26th. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. I've been thinking a lot about this red wiggler bin. I feel like there are 2 layers to this bin, and the worms are only using the bottom half. As small as this bin is, I feel like there is this top layer. I just added this on last night. But I feel like there's this top layer of leaves and coffee grounds and stuff, and then there's underneath the leaves is a lot of composted material and worms. But I don't feel like the worms are really coming up. Smell some worms? Now maybe this is exactly how the worms want it to be, but I feel like if I could somehow flip this upside down, the worms would start eating up this material faster. So I have brought out my big bin, the one that I was originally planning to use to house my African night crawlers, and I was thinking maybe I would do just that. Maybe I would just dump the contents out into this bin and mix it up a little and then put it back in this bin. So that's what I'm planning on doing right now. Okay, Kitty and I have rigged this up as best as we can. Here's the bin. I hope I don't regret doing this. Lots of happy worms. Why are you crying? Are you afraid of worms, Kitty? Okay, so here is the bottom side of the bin, and there was some pretty awesome worm action in here. I haven't had a chance to really dig through here and look for cocoons or anything yet, but I will say that the majority of the material that was under the leaf is pretty well composted, but I am finding little clumps of paper like this in the bottom half of the bin that the worms were still working on. I need to see if there's any like food hidden in here. I'd put some frozen apple slices in here, and if that's gone, I think I need to put in some more food for them to eat. So that's what I'm gonna be working on next. Okay, as I'm digging through, I'm trying to pull some of the paper that was on top and put it at the bottom, but I am finding some awesome worm balls, as they call them. I'm seeing a few cocoons here and there as I'm moving things around as well, so that's nice. There's a part of me that's wondering if I should just leave them here, but then there's another part of me that's having flashbacks from the horrible experience with the African night crawlers, and I cannot do that. So yeah, I'm still just moving paper over here to the bottom. I'm not seeing any food in here, so I am gonna leave them. Maybe a frozen banana to munch on as well. I found a piece of the original burlap that came with my first 500 wigglers from the Uncle Jim's Worm Farm kit. I got this back in June of this past year, 2020. Well, it's still this year, but this year, June of 2020. And it has either disintegrated or been eaten by the worms, so there's just little scraps left, and that's it. I should probably look into where I can buy more burlap and buy some more, because ooh, that's an awesome little worm ball. Yeah, there's lots of little pockets with little groups of worms. I normally don't dig around so much, but I just really felt like this bin was really imbalanced with leaves on top and dirt on the bottom. So I'm kind of glad I'm doing this, even though I feel like I'm really messing with the worms. And hopefully they'll forgive me when they see the banana I'm gonna give them. Okay, I've pulled out this frozen banana from the freezer. I had a bunch of bananas that never got eaten, and my kids are as bad as me. We are all total snobs. Once it starts getting speckled with brown, we're not gonna eat them, so they went straight into the freezer. Feeding your worms frozen foods is recommended because the cells have already burst from the freezing process, and they break down much faster, and it's easier for the worms to eat them. So that's why they recommend frozen food for your worms. So I have already sorted through the bin. Oh my gosh, this banana is cold. I've already sorted through the bin and pulled out as many big chunks as I feel like I needed to, and I've moved them back into the bin. I found a couple of avocado shells in different stages of decomp. This one is looking pretty crispy and dry. So I'm much happier to have the leaves on the bottom. I like that. So I think I'm gonna put that down like that. I want to make sure I don't put that. I should probably leave this banana out for a few minutes to, it is just really cold. The worms are going to be frozen by it, but it's warm in here. It'll come to room temperature pretty quickly enough. So I'm going to set that down right there, right in the middle, and I'm going to lay this piece of corrugated cardboard right on top of it. I've been told that worms absolutely love corrugated cardboard. So far, the majority of what I've been feeding them is just shredded newspaper and shredded boxes that are not corrugated. So when I saw this piece of paper come off from my daughter's birthday present, I saved it. So I'm gonna put that right on top. kind of shield the worms from the cold. And then I'm going to dump the contents of this back into the bin. Hopefully it'll all still fit now that I've fluffed it up and put little air pockets throughout here. So hopefully it'll all fit again. Okay, the bin is full again. This bin is empty. I've double and triple and quadruple checked to make sure there's no baby worms left behind, and it all fits back in here with the new banana that's been added in and the piece of cardboard I stuck in there. I did see several cocoons while I was moving things around, but tonight is not the night where I'm doing a harvest. And as much as I'd like to see how many cocoons there are and how many worms there are, I don't have time. So the mission I set out to accomplish has been accomplished. I hope that they're happy with the setup because I am happy with the setup. So I'll just be monitoring it for the next couple days to make sure it's good for them, because I'm happy to not have like that separation of dry stuff on top and the wet dirt down below. I like this much better, and hopefully they'll be able to work through all the paper that was just stuck on top and really get to composting it. I want to show you my African night crawlers next. Hang on. Okay, so this is the bottom tray, and every day now I am finding just a ton of black gold and worms down here. Lots of babies. So I am having to make sure I check this every single day, because I don't think this is an ideal condition for them. I don't think they want to be down here. I think they just kind of fall down here. So when that happens, I just dump them back in the top part. I think I demoed that in last month's video. Oops. So I'm going to do that really quickly and move them all back up here from here. Okay, so it's pretty well cleaned out. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. I'll do it again tomorrow, but that's about how much ends up down there every day at this point. So these worms are really moving around a lot in here, and there they all are, the worms that fell down in the bottom. There was a couple of big guys down there. A lot of times it's like medium-sized worms, but a couple of big guys got down there this time. So I'm glad I got them out of this bottom part and into the top part where the food is. I would like them to stay up here and start composting that food. Okay, the lid is back on, and what I really want to show you is what's on the bottom tray. So let's take a look in there really quickly. So here is the bottom tray, and as you can tell, there are quite a few big guys kind of skimming around the top. That's what I normally see when I lift off this tray. But what I wasn't expecting to see, and I hope, let me make sure the leg's on all the way. I'm gonna crouch down here. Is when I started scratching the surface, just look at that. It doesn't matter where I do that. That's what's going on. And it's a lot. Look at that. I cannot believe this. I'm so glad I'm able to show you guys this, because I just am shocked. This tray, and it's warm. I could feel the warmth coming out of here. They create a lot of heat. If you just scratch the surface of this bin, it is just covered with babies. And I could tell that they're babies because they're small. Look at that. I cannot believe it. Look at them. Everywhere I look in this bottom bin are babies, and I didn't realize it until about a week ago that this is like the ANC nursery, and I must have hundreds of little African nightcrawler babies in this bin, and I'm super excited and a little bit freaked out by it, because I'm gonna have to find some new accommodations for them sooner rather than later based on this level of reproduction. Is that one up there? There's a baby hanging right there. you doing? There's a little ANC baby. So, yeah. I really was shocked, so I had to show you guys because I cannot believe how many, oh my gosh. Just, it looks like hundreds of little babies just below the surface. Okay, I added a few pieces of cardboard, some eggshells, and some of this food that they seem to love from Uncle Jim's. Normally, I wouldn't be feeding this bottom bin, but because it's like a little baby nursery, I'm feeding it. I don't know how I am going to sift through this bin when it's time to harvest. I'll figure that out at a later date, but I cannot believe I'm gonna have to start another bin for the ANCs and start moving them over there because they're just so busy. Busy, busy, busy. Okay, the day has come to expand my worm operation once again. This is going to be a second home for my African night crawlers. So I just wanted to show you guys, this is the bin. It's been in the basement. I don't have any holes drilled in it yet. I'm hoping I won't need to. We'll see how that goes. But I have some cardboard drink holders torn up down there. I have some shredded paper and leaves soaking, and I have some coffee grounds waiting to go in. And look at that mess over there. The chaos is pretty real over here these days. I am gonna see how many full-size, fully grown African night crawlers I can grab out of there, and I'm gonna move them over here, I guess. I don't know, I'm kind of scared to do that. Maybe I should move babies over here and keep the big guys over there? Huh. Maybe I'll grab the babies and move the babies over here. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll be right back and let you know what I decide to do. Okay, so I have decided to go with babies and not the big guys. Here are about 25 little baby African night crawlers. I'm guessing some are a day old, some might be up to a week old. I am gonna try and get at least 100 into the new bin, but I'm only gonna take 25 at a time because I'm guessing these guys are kind of fragile and I wanna get them in their new home environment over there as soon as possible. So here's the first 25 going into the new bin. Okay, the bin is done. It is so hard to even see these worms. I picked some really tiny guys and I'm just leaving them in here to settle. I ended up putting a damp towel that has, it's a rag that I use to clean my house, but it has so many holes all over it that it's not really working, and the worms will eat it. It's just a terry cloth towel, so they will eat it as part of their diet. And so most of the worms are under this blanket right now, and like I said, they're so small you can't even see them. They're just, there's no way to even, I'm telling you, I picked the tiniest little worms ever. Oh, there's one right there. Look at how, that's one of the bigger ones. That's a pretty big worm. But in total, there's a little one right there. You see that little guy right there? That's about the size of the worms I gathered. Here's my thumb for reference. So you could see how small he is, super tiny. So in total, I gathered about 165 worms and put them in this big bin. And I'm excited about the fact that they're all super tiny. I'm curious to see if they will mature into full-size African night crawlers and about how long it'll take for them to fully mature. I'm sure I could look that up or ask other people, but I'm curious to watch it happen with my own eyes since there were no full-size mature African night crawlers placed in this bin. I added some powdered eggshell and some of that feed that came with my original 500 red wigglers. The African night crawlers love the worm chow. I might end up making some more once this batch is gone because they just gobble it up. So I'm going to cover this up and add it to the stack of bins I have going of worms, and I'll check on it in a couple days and see if I can find any worms and if they've grown at all. Do you guys think my husband will notice that the stack of bins is getting taller? I don't know. We'll see if he notices. Okay, so I'm going to post this video today, but I wanted to give you an update on my new bin of the baby African night crawlers. There are now almost 500 babies in this bin. I think I'm around 475, and I'm going to keep going and adding them into this bin, but I have found in the past week 500 baby African night crawlers, and you wouldn't even be able to tell. Like, I don't see any action in here. This bin is completely quiet. There are some still on top of the rag that I put in there today, just chilling and hanging out. But yeah, let me dig around a little bit and see if I could find some night crawlers in here, because it's really quiet in this bin. There's not a lot going on. Hang on. Yeah, nothing. I've dug around. I don't see any worms, but over the past week or so, I have placed 500 night crawlers in this bin. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens over the next month. You've seen how tiny some of these night crawlers are. They're all babies. There is not a fully mature night crawler anywhere in this bin. So I'm gonna keep going until I get to about 500, and then I will stop. And then I'll stop at that point, but I just wanted to give you a quick update on my night crawler bin. And here is my little bin that I tossed, I dumped out and tossed around a couple weeks ago. That was on December 26th that I did that. And today's January 31st. So that was a month ago. And look at that. Happy worms. I think the banana that was in here might be gone. Let me see if I could find that banana. It was somewhere in the bottom. Oh my gosh, it's a little worm party. That's okay, Hayes.
And now I cannot make my snowman. And I wrapped yours down because you said I could.
You wrecked it?
Yeah.
That wasn't nice. You're not supposed to wreck it.
Sorry, I just couldn't do a snowman that was big. I tried, and I want to make a medium.
Oh, I'm just
And
loving
I'm
this
not
worm
that
ball
good at
right here.
making snowmans. I just make tiny ones. And one tells me to say I'm a baby, which is not. Hopefully, I don't need to just run snow. I can just walk.
I'm not really seeing the banana anywhere in here. maybe I'll add in some more food from the freezer tonight into this bin.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Hayes.
I'm
Yeah.
hungry.
So I'm my kid's hungry.
I'm hungry.
I'm worried about feeding my worms and my kid's hungry. So I think I'll add in some food into this bin tonight. I need to defrost some of the food first because it's very much frozen. I do have some unfrozen food too. I don't know. But overall, I'm much more happier with this bin since tossing it around, and I do feel like they're processing the material that was on the top a lot faster now that it's on the bottom. So overall, I'm just really happy with what we did with this bin as well. I have never ever done this before, but I am going through the sifted compost and I ran across this egg and I gave it a squeeze to see if anything was inside. And 2 African night crawlers popped out. There's 2 babies side by side right there. Can you see that? Oh my gosh. Let me try and zoom in. Does that make it? Look at that. I'm going to add them to my new worm bin. Just when I think I've gotten all the night crawlers out, something like this happens and I realize that this is a very long process.